Hey there, welcome to Mike's Collection, episode 346. I'm Mike, and the part of my collection that I'm going to be talking about today is all the action figures I purchased in the fourth quarter of 2024. So every year I post my best of the year list, and so what I would do when I would put my list together every year is I would go through every action figure I bought that entire year and whittle it down to like my top 20. And that was very time consuming because it was a lot of figures to sort through. So a couple of years ago, I decided to do these videos quarterly where I would take all the action figures that I bought in a 3-month period, pick like my top 20 from that period to kind of move forward to the next phase. And so that way, at the end of the year, I would only have about 80 figures to sort through, which was like my best of each quarter. So as I'm filming this, it is December 18th. I wanted to get my Christmas tree in the background here, although it's only about lunchtime, so it's not lit up, and it wouldn't look very impressive even if I did because it's so bright in here. But yeah, this is my massive Christmas tree. It's like over 12 feet tall. It's pretty big. It's pretty daunting to put up every year, but my wife loves it, so there you go. Anyways, so yeah, it's only December 18th, so it's not the end of the quarter just yet. However, at this point in time, I kind of had to stop buying action figures for myself because, for one, I've told some of my loved ones, some of the action figures that I would like for Christmas, so I can't risk buying things that somebody else might get me. And two, I kind of need to use my money to buy gifts for others right now. So it's not likely that I'm going to get too many more action figures before the end of the year. And the ones that I will get will probably come in the last week or so, because I'll get some toys for Christmas. I might go out on Boxing Day and pick up some toys on sale or something. But the toys that I have right now are probably pretty much it until Christmas. So I figure I will do my best of the year for the fourth quarter today. I'll whittle it down to, let's say, my top 20 or so. And then at the end of the year, I can do a video with the figures that advanced from this video and from the previous 3 videos, as well as I'll throw in whatever, like maybe 5 to 10 new action figures I got in the final week of the month. So there you go. It's pretty basic stuff. Basically, I'm just going to take every action figure from this quarter, put it on my desk, whittle it down in real time. I haven't really given it any pre-thought, so you get to kind of get into my mind for a little while I figure out how I'm going to eliminate certain things. I'll get it down to my final amount, and the only rules that I have are that the figure has to have been released this year, and I have to have acquired it, obviously, because there's some amazing figures that got released this year that I did not get, so I can't put those figures on my list. And also, there's a handful of figures that I got this year, such as just recently I got the Star Wars Black Series Retro Greedo figure, which is pretty cool. And I also got a McFarlane Multiverse Grifter figure. Anyway, I got a handful of figures this year, this quarter, that wouldn't qualify. So those figures you won't see on my desk because, yeah, they don't qualify. So I think that's all you really need to know. So, yeah, I'm going to head downstairs and start eliminating some action figures. So here's a quick look at everything we're dealing with. Got some Godzillas, lots of reaction figures from Super 7 up front, some Masters of the Universe, lots of G.I. Joe Classified, some Marvel Legends, some Transformers, and a couple other odds and ends. So all told, there's I think there's about 90 figures here. So yeah. I have not been doing a very good job of buying fewer figures. I'm still going at a rate that averages out to about 1 a day, which is not sustainable. But my New Year's resolution for 2025 is to buy fewer action figures. So the next time you see one of these videos, which will be my best of the first quarter of 2025, you should be looking at a lot fewer figures. That is my hope. Anyway, so let's start eliminating. So I usually start with these smaller figures right up front. I love these Super 7 reaction figures, but, they are very simple by design. They are supposed to be, just 5 points for articulation. The detail, like the sculpting, is pretty soft compared to, more detailed figures like I've got back there. So very rarely will these guys advance to farther stages of these videos. So I'm going to eliminate probably quite a few of them right off the bat. So I'm going to start with these Universal Monsters. These guys came in blind boxes. They're dressed in Christmas colors, as you can see. So they're just repaints of figures I already have. And even though the Christmas colors are cute, they're not going to be best of the year for me. So I'll get rid of the Invisible Man and Frankenstein. This Godzilla here, this is the Marusan Godzilla reaction figure. We've got this in several different colors already. So even though I like this kind of glow-in-the-dark creamsicle version, he's not my toy of the year. Optimus Prime, I've got a black Optimus Prime here. And there's also a white Optimus Prime, kind of tucked back here. Both of them are cool. I think I prefer the white over the black. But I've already got the red and blue classic Optimus Prime. So yeah, these guys, they're just repaints. They are not going to be my toy of the year either. Here's another Transformers reaction figure. This is Rumble. Now he's a repaint of Frenzy. I think these guys are really cool. They're the little cassette Decepticons. But again, not toy of the year. I've got a Godzilla and a Mechagodzilla here. These guys are very cool. I like the paint jobs, but the big selling feature for these particular figures was the packaging. They came in these pinball style packages, and the colors they're based on are based on the artwork from the Godzilla pinball machine. So a very cool concept, but I open up all my figures, and once you take the packaging away from these guys, they kind of lose one of their biggest appeals, I guess. So they're cool, but these are just repaints of toys I already have in more standard colors, so those guys are both going to get eliminated as well. Now you'll see I've got a few Sesame Street guys here. I really did not expect to be collecting Sesame Street figures anytime soon, but these figures came out and they're just really well done. I guess it made me nostalgic in a way I didn't expect to be, plus a lot of my friends were really into them too, and it just kind of won me over. So these are unique for the first time. These aren't figures that I've already got a dozen times over, as is the case with the Godzillas and the Transformers. I don't know if any of them will advance, but I'm not quite ready to eliminate them yet. Although back here, I've got another Godzilla reaction figure. This is Hedorah, or Hedorah. So this is the Smog Monster. I really love this guy. He's one of my favorite kaiju designs, and this color scheme is really cool. But again, I have this figure 3 or 4 times already, so yeah, he's going to get eliminated. Now over here, I've got some reaction figures of Spinal Tap, which I think are great, and Conan the Barbarian. These are all new to me as well. These guys are getting made for the first time this year, so these are not repaints. They're pretty cool. I don't know if they would make it through, even though David St. Hubbins here is the lead singer and he's great in the movie. The action figure is probably the most dull of the 3 of them. So yeah, I know he wouldn't go anywhere, so I can eliminate him. Of the Conan the Barbarian figures, this is Thulsa Doom. And he was from Wave 1. And to be honest, he might not even qualify. I can't remember if he might have come out last year, but I just bought him when I bought these Wave 2 figures. So yeah, Thulsa Doom, he's going to go. But don't cry too much for Thulsa, because there's another version of Thulsa Doom back here, and he's still got a fighting chance. As for these Conan figures, they're all pretty great. I'm really happy to have these characters, but Subutai here and Valeria, they wouldn't go forward. Maybe Conan would. The only thing is, a couple of years ago, I got a nice 7-inch version of War Paint Conan, and that one made my best of the year list. That, as fun as this little one is, it's just too basic in comparison to the one that had previously made my list. So I think I can eliminate him as well. And while I'm over here, let's take a look at the first of quite a few DC superpowers that I have here from McFarlane Toys. This is the Gold Wonder Woman, and it's a nice figure. This Wonder Woman figure has grown on me over time. I already have 2 or 3 other versions of it, but for that reason, it doesn't really have much new factor to it other than the gold paint job. So yeah, I can eliminate her as well. Now I've got a couple of more superpower figures over here and a few more through here. Now there was a 3-pack with these kind of like Golden Age heroes in there. I'm not super familiar with Hourman or Starman or the original Green Lantern even. These guys look great though. I really love their kind of Golden Age outfits. I can't imagine they'll advance, but one of them might at least. And the other superpowers I have here are Bizarro and the Riddler. They're both kind of fun, but neither of them would qualify for me as Toy of the Year, so I can get rid of them. A couple of more things up front here. So I've got this Playmates figure here. This is Tiamat, one of the kaijus from the legendary Godzilla movies. I was happy to get a figure of one of the kaijus that wasn't Godzilla or Kong, but this guy here, for one, it's a Playmates toy, so it's just pretty simple and childish compared to a lot of the other figures I collect. He's a little wonky too. You can see how he twists around. His legs are kind of all out of place and everything. He's fine, but yeah, he's definitely not a Toy of the Year, so he can go. And while we're talking about Godzillas that don't qualify, I picked up this Godzilla and Anguirus earlier. These were little blind box figures. So these were made by Funko, and they're really cute, but they're not Toy of the Year for me, so they can go. And while we're on the topic of kaijus, I've got this Otachi figure. So this is from McFarlane Toys. You know, this is a character from Pacific Rim. I'm really happy to be getting Pacific Rim figures of any sort. I wish these were a little bigger and a little bit more detailed. But Otachi is one of the cooler kaijus from those movies. But this is a repaint of a figure that was released last year. So yeah, I don't think this one's going to go any further either. So we're making some progress, but we're already about 10 minutes into this thing. I always tend to go long because I talk too much. I've got a couple of Funko Pops over here. This is, whoops, and there's my first casualty. Geldor just fell off the table. But anyway, this is Shin Godzilla. You know, it's cute. I like Funko Pops. They're cute and all, but they're definitely not really competing with my action figures to be on my best action figure of the year list. So same as Toucan Sam. This was gifted to me from my sister. Pretty cute stuff. Fun toys, but they are both going to get eliminated. Okay, I've got Geldor back up here. Now, since he wanted to make himself the center of attention, let's talk about him. So both him and Demo Man were Masters of the Universe Origins figures that you had to buy directly from Mattel through their Mattel Creations website. I'm happy to have both of these characters in my Origins line, but I have both these characters already in the Classics line. These figures, while they're good, I would just say they're slightly less good than the previous versions I already had in a bigger scale. So yeah, they're both going to get eliminated. Now there are two more Masters of the Universe Origins figures here. This is Lord Grasp, and this is Terror. Now these guys are both fun. I was pretty excited to get both of them. They are like kind of made up of a mishmash of parts from other characters. Like this guy here, he's got Squeeze's head and Clawful's claw and Scareglow's cape. This guy here has Whiplash's head and Trapjaw's arm and Mosquito's boots. They're fun. Again, I have both these characters in the Classics versions, so the Classics ones are a little bit better. And plus Terror, I think he's a little bit less successful as far as mashing these parts together. So I'm comfortable getting rid of him. But Terror, I love. I love my Classics version, and that made my best of the year list, I'm pretty sure, back when he first came out in like 2012 or 2013, whatever that was. I don't know. Yeah, and I really like this version too. So I might let him stick around for a little while, but we are going to get rid of Terror. Okay, I'm going to shimmy these reaction figures out of my way for the next little while. But I do have a couple of more here. Again, I like these figures. I wouldn't have bought them if I didn't like them. I've got the Oompa Loompa here from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I've got Vampira. I know her best from the movie Ed Wood and Plan 9 from Outer Space. But anyway, as cool as these figures are, they are not Toy of the Year for me, so I'm going to eliminate both of them. Okay, let's see if we can do some easy eliminations here. Count Nefaria. This is a Marvel Legends from Hasbro. I just got this guy recently on sale. He's cool, but he's not Toy of the Year. Fusion Batman from DC McFarlane, like Multiverse. Again, kind of a cool mashup of Superman and Batman. He's fun, but he's not Toy of the Year. The Beyonder. This is a Marvel Legend. I've been excited to get this character because he was very integral to Marvel comic books when I started reading in the mid 80s. But he is kind of a dork. He's not a very exciting figure, so we can eliminate him. Quicksilver. This is an important character in the Marvel Universe, but he's not somebody that I ever really liked all that much. The figure is not particularly exciting, so he can go. And Lilith back here. This is like the Queen of Demons or something like that. She was from a recent wave of Marvel Legends that focused on the Midnight Suns. It's a pretty lame figure, to be honest with you. I like the character, and I'm happy to get a figure of her. But yeah, this figure is not Toy of the Year either. Now, before I get rid of Lilith, I just thought I would give you a full shot of her so you can see the entire figure. And you know what? Pretty much this entire wave, I think, is fit for elimination. Like, this is Bloodstorm. This is a vampire version of Storm from the X-Men. Again, a fine figure, but just not a version of this character I really care about. Damien Hellstrom. This is a character I was excited to get. He's never had an action figure before, but, like, he's a barefoot dude with some yoga pants on. It's not a particularly exciting figure, so he can go. This is Brother Voodoo or Dr. Voodoo. It's not a figure I really wanted. I already have another version of this guy. I really only bought him because I wanted the Build-A-Figure piece that he came with. So yeah, he's definitely not a Toy of the Year for me. And even though I'm a huge Moon Knight fan, he's one of my favorite Marvel characters. I already have a couple of Moon Knights in my collection. I probably would not have bought this one either, except for the fact that he came with a Build-A-Figure piece. So yeah, not Toy of the Year for me. Now, I've only got a few Transformers in here. Most of them are kind of hiding in the back to be addressed later. This guy here, this is Ruckus. This is not a character I really care about. I did not have this guy when I was a kid. I probably would not have even bought this guy on his own, but he came packaged with Bludgeon back here, who was a character that I really wanted. So, yeah, I don't mind that I have this figure because I'm always happy to have, new characters in my collection, but I think this is a pretty boring toy, just in design, in color. It's, it's fine, but it's nothing great. So he's going to go. And I've got a couple more Marvel Legends here, which Lockjaw, which is the giant teleporting dog from the Inhumans. This is a fun figure, and this is a character that, fans have wanted for a long time. And they did a good job on him. He's big. I think he probably could have been a little bit bigger, to be honest with you, but he is big. He's got alternate, like an alternate muzzle for his face. He's got alternate little, what do they call that thing? I don't know, little antenna on his head there. It's a nice figure, but it is just a giant dog. And, even his pack mate, he came in a pack with Crystal, the Inhuman. Now, this is another character I was happy to add to my collection. She is an important character in the Fantastic Four comic books and everything. I'm happy to get her, but she is a rather boring toy. Her outfit is pretty plain. She doesn't have any capes. She doesn't even have a logo. It's, she's just a chick in some yellow spandex. So I'm happy to get these characters. They are good toys, but they are not Toys of the Year, so we can get rid of them. And let's talk about Devastator. I kind of forgot about him. This is another reaction figure from Super 7. You just wouldn't necessarily know it because he's 6 inches tall instead of the standard 3 3/4 inches like the other reaction figures. The reason for that is because this is Devastator. He is a Transformer combiner, so he is supposed to be made up of smaller Transformers to form a giant. Now, I really like this figure. I got the original Devastator a couple years ago, which I think we can maybe spot him if we go up here into my reaction figure shelf. And yeah, you can see the green and purple version of Devastator back there. That's the one that I grew up with. I love the green and purple. It was a fantastic figure. So I was happy to get it again in these colors based on the original Japanese toys. It's kind of like a fun little Easter egg for, hardcore Transformer fans. But if this figure was ever going to make my best of the year list, it would have been, the green and purple version, which I think it did. That would have been a few years ago. I don't remember, but it was definitely a contender if it didn't make the final cut. But anyway, so I really like this figure. But yeah, it's a repaint of another awesome figure that's already been evaluated, so he can go too. Okay, maybe we start looking at some of these G.I. Joe classified because there are a lot of them. So this is Road Pig. I'm not going to talk too much about him because I love it. I think it is awesome. This guy is the first figure I'm going to say is a lock. He is going to advance to the next round. He's just great. He's got so many cool accessories. This big riot shield. He's got a cinder block on a stick. And he even comes with this dog named Ruckus. I believe. Yeah. So anyway, very cool. And yeah, he's going through. Over here we have the 60th anniversary Sniper. Now this figure was pretty cool because, as you can see, she came with this kind of crazy ghillie suit, which you can just like kind of slide off of her. I don't know if I can do it with one hand. Yeah, there we go. So you can see she's pretty cool. And she came with alternate heads, so you could display her 3 different ways. It's a nice figure. I like it a lot, but because she is a nameless character, you know, she's not an homage to any characters that I grew up with in the 80s. So yeah, it just doesn't really resonate with me in the same way that some of these other named Joes do. So I'm going to get rid of her. The Cobra Trooper. This is the retro carded Cobra Trooper. He is done in some nice crisp blues that are reminiscent of the vintage 1980s Cobra Trooper. This is possibly the best version of the Cobra Trooper we've got, but we have gotten a couple other versions. I have him in different shades of blue. I have him in gray. I have him in black. I have him with goggles. So I like that I'm building a nice little squad of Cobra infantrymen, but this one, you know, it's a little bit of a been there, done that. So even though the colors are nice, it's not enough to push this guy through to the next round. So we can eliminate him. Now we've got a couple of more Cobra Troopers to look at. So this is Raptor. He is the Cobra Falconer. And then we've got the Iron Grenadier Trooper, which I guess technically isn't Cobra. He's part of Destro's private army. So these guys are both pretty cool. Now, when we were kids, I had the Iron Grenadier. My brother Doug had Raptor. The original Iron Grenadier was awesome. The original Raptor was pretty goofy. However, looking at these new versions, I think they've taken Raptor and made him way cooler. Like, I think his outfit looks better. I like the mechanical wings that he's got here. I like his cowl and the fact that it's removable. That looks pretty cool. Whereas with the Iron Grenadier, he looks great, but I don't think he necessarily looks as great as the original. Like, they've given him gray pants where the original one wore black. They've given him this coat, which I don't mind. I actually kind of like the coat, but it is different than the original. His helmet, while I guess it's neat that they gave him a helmet that comes off, I find it doesn't stay in place very well. So this thing just kind of floats around and comes off too easily, which I don't like. So this guy looks cool, but I bet we'll probably get a better version of this guy sometime down the road, maybe in fully retro colors. So I think I can eliminate Iron Grenadier, kind of to my surprise, but Raptor, I'm going to say he's the next lock. I really like this figure. It's got a lot of cool display possibilities. He's got his little falcon on his arm. He's got his like Wolverine claws there. He's just he's a cool figure. I like this guy a lot. So now let's take a look at some actual G.I. Joes. So just this quarter, I got the G.I. Joe Dragonfly helicopter, which is a beast of a toy. Now, I don't really consider vehicles when I'm making my best action figure of the year list. However, if any of the 4 action figures that came packaged with the helicopter were to advance in my list, I would kind of consider the helicopter an accessory to them, which definitely gives them a bit of an extra boost because the helicopter is awesome. Here's a quick look at the Dragonfly helicopter for those of you who haven't seen it yet. Like, it is a massive toy. It's up here on my windowsill. It's just, it's really cool. So here are the 4 Joes that came with the helicopter. So it is the Paratrooper Ripcord, the Paratrooper Crazy Legs, both of whom I had when I was a kid, so I have an attachment to both of those characters. Then we have the pilot Wild Bill, who my brother Doug owned. And then we have Glenda, who is based on an international repaint of Scarlet. Now, generally in these situations, I'm most excited about the characters that I had as a kid. Now, this Crazy Legs, it's not a bad figure, but it just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't really look like Crazy Legs to me. For one, this is the Night Force version of Crazy Legs rather than the standard red and gray version that I actually had. So it's my least favorite. It's also just kind of bland in the all black. So he's going to get eliminated. Glenda, I actually love this figure. It's basically built up off of the retro card Scarlet figure, which was already a good figure. But just the fact that this is based on an international character that we haven't gotten before, I think it's very, very cool. So I'm going to go ahead and say that Glenda is a lock and Crazy Legs is eliminated. Wild Bill, he's pretty cool. It's just I don't have the same attachment to this character as I did with other characters. Like if we had Ace, for example, the G.I. Joe jet pilot, I might have been more excited about him because he was a character that I owned as a kid. So this Wild Bill figure is really nice, and it's got some nice display options. He's got removable hat, removable sunglasses, and all that stuff, which is just pretty cool. But yeah, he's just not going to advance for me. And then Ripcord, he actually does look great. I love that the visor on the helmet there and the little breather. It's cool, and he does look better in black, I think, than Crazy Legs did. But this is still the Night Force version of Ripcord. It's not, you know, him in his classic green camouflage that I had as a kid. So, yeah, you know what? I think I can probably eliminate this Ripcord because I think probably next year we'll get him in his classic green camo, and that one would probably have a better chance of advancing. So, yeah, I'm going to let go of him, even though it's a really nice-looking figure. All right, so Glenda is advancing on to the next round, and she's got the benefit of having that helicopter now as her added accessory. So that definitely gives her that added value. Now, while we're talking about foreign repaints of Scarlet, why don't we talk about Coral here? So this is based on the same figure. Like you might notice, she has a lot of the same design elements as Glenda, but she has a different, like a unique head. Kind of a bitchy one, if you ask me. She looks a little bit like a Karen. But this is based off of a UK repaint of Scarlet. So this one was based on, I think, was it Argentina that the Glenda repaint was from, and then it was the UK where the Coral repaint was from. And I think it's great that we're getting both of these kind of international figures added to the official G.I. Joe team. Now, to be honest, when I got this figure, I thought this was probably a lock to move forward at least to my final video. But now that I've got this figure, which is so similar but superior, I think it's safe to probably eliminate Coral since Glenda can go on and fight this battle. So I'm going to let go of Coral. Coral's pack mate was this Lieutenant Falcon. So this is Night Force Lieutenant Falcon. This is a huge improvement over the previous Lieutenant Falcon that we got from Hasbro in their classified line. This one much, much better. He looks much younger, much fresher faced than the kind of like weird, ugly, old version we got last time around. So I'm happy to get this version. And it does look really good. It's a nice uniform and everything, but he is a little plain. And I hope that they might repaint this figure in time in his classic colors that the version 1 figure came in. So the version 1 figure had the right outfit, but kind of an ugly face. This one here, nice face, but wrong outfit for, you know, doesn't feed off my nostalgia the same way the original outfit would. So this is a really solid figure that I have to eliminate, but that's kind of the name of the game here. So Lieutenant Falcon is going to go. All right, let's see if we can do a few more rapid fire eliminations here. This here is the 60th anniversary Halo jumper, which this figure I actually really love too because it looks a lot like Ripcord. It looks more like my Ripcord figure that I had as a kid than the Night Force Ripcord that I just eliminated. And it has, you know, a lot of the same features. He has that really cool visor with breather. You can see he's got some camo face paint on. If you get up nice and tight there, it's a really, really great figure. He came with a parachute and everything. I love it. But it's just something that, with the fact that he doesn't have a name, he is a nameless trooper, just like the Marine sniper I showed you earlier. So these 60th anniversary figures are nice to kind of pad the ranks of my G.I. Joe team. But yeah, I think just because he's a nameless character, he's not going to advance. But next year, if we do get a ripcord in these colors, so it would be almost identical to this figure. It just has the benefit of the name recognition. Yeah, I think that one could advance, but this guy I'm going to let go. Then we've got Starduster back here. This figure, I'll just tell you right now, I love it. It's built largely off of the same figure as the retro carded Duke, which advanced in one of my earlier videos this year. I don't think both Starduster and Duke would make my final best of the year list, but I really don't know which one has a better chance. Duke is kind of the more classic, well-known character, the face of G.I. Joe, but he's also a little overdone. I have lots of Duke figures. Starduster is more of an obscure character. You don't see him come around very much, and he's got the benefit of not only a really great sculpt, but he's got the jetpack here, which is super cool. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and say that Starduster is a lock to move on to the next round. Now I've got Alpine. This is the G.I. Joe Mountaineer coming up next. This is a good figure. I had Alpine when I was a kid. I quite like him. He was always fun in the G.I. Joe cartoons. This one has a removable hat and removable goggles, which is something new. And sometimes removable parts like that can look a little wonky, but I actually think his look pretty good. So yeah, it's a nice figure, but he was never one of my favorite characters. He was just kind of one of my many G.I. Joes that kind of filled that role of, you know, being kind of mid. I had some G.I. Joe figures that I really didn't care for when I was a kid, and then I had my absolute favorites, and Alpine was just somewhere in the middle. So kind of just based on that experience, even though I think this is a really solid figure, I don't think it's going to advance to my best of the year list. And by the way, I apologize. I don't know why my focus keeps going in and out there. I am aware of it, but it's doing it all by itself. Anyway, there you go. Alpine, he's going to go. All right, we're clearing our way through to the back rows there. I've got a couple of locks tucked away over here. But maybe let's revisit these guys we have up front that were kind of all in the maybe category. So as far as Spinal Tap goes, I think Nigel was probably my favorite character in the movie, but the figure isn't nearly as interesting as Derek here in his crazy like leather bondage outfit and the chest hair. Again, will a reaction figure make it to my best of the year list? Unlikely, but I think I can eliminate Nigel, and Derek can maybe fight for the whole band. These Sesame Street figures, I like Cookie Monster, but you can see here he's got a little different texture. He's fuzzy. This was actually an exclusive figure that you had to get from Box Lunch. And, you know, the only reason I got this is because my buddy ordered them and offered one up to me. But I think I would have actually preferred the non-fuzzy version of Cookie Monster. It seems to take away all the detail from the sculpt. And I think the strongest thing about these other figures is the sculpt and the paint job, which we kind of lose here. So of these Sesame Street figures, I think Cookie Monster can go. And as much as I think the paint job on Oscar is great, he is barely an action figure at all. He doesn't have any arms, any legs. The only real movement on this figure is that you can push that lever and his head can go up and down in the can, but there's really not much to him, so I think he can go. So it's kind of between the Count and Big Bird. They're both kind of fun. And of these Superpowers figures, again, I like all of these guys. The colors are all really unique, and I think they almost seem stronger together. Like if I could push the whole 3-pack together as one spot, I would do that, but that would be breaking my own rules. So yeah, you know what, I think I'm going to eliminate Starman and Hourman. There's something about Green Lantern here with the purple and green cape and the red shirt, the blonde hair. He's just got so many colors going at once, so he's just really fun. So I think he'll go, but the other two guys can go. Now I think we're down to 3 or 4 Marvel Legends that I haven't talked about yet. Now Titania, she came out in the same Secret Wars wave as the Beyonder. She's just a great figure. She's big and muscular and tough. It's a really great sculpt. It's a character who has never had an action figure before. And it's a character that I kind of have a little bit of a special place for, just because she appeared in one of the very first ever Spider-Man comic books I ever bought when I was 8 years old. So, yeah, this is a great figure. So I'm tempted to keep it around. Now, this is Dracula. This was the other figure in the Midnight Suns wave, and I didn't haul him up front to be eliminated with the rest of the gang because I thought he might have a chance to advance. He's just very cool in this red armor. It's reminiscent of the armor, slightly, I guess, of the armor that Dracula wore in the Francis Ford Coppola version of Dracula. That's what it reminds me of. He's, he had alternate faces. So you had one where he was like scowling. It's cool, but I just don't know if it's going to make it. Dracula made my best of the year list just a year or two ago, but that was the NECA version of Dracula based on Bela Lugosi from the movie version. I just love the character of Dracula from fiction in general. This Marvel version is pretty cool, but the competition is pretty fierce, so I think I can eliminate him. And then the last Marvel Legend, or the second to last, is Blackheart. This is the son of Mephisto, essentially the son of the devil in the Marvel Universe. He is a big, scary monster as designed by John Romita Jr. I love this character. I love the way he was drawn by John Romita back in the Daredevil comic books when he first appeared. And he is the reason that I bought characters like Brother Voodoo and Bloodstorm and Moon Knight, figures that I didn't really need because I wanted to complete this Build-A-Figure. And he is big, but he's still just a little weird. Like, the articulation isn't quite what I'd want it to be. I was a little disappointed by this figure, I guess, is what I'm saying. So even though it's decent, I waited a long time for a proper Blackheart figure because I have one from years ago that I wanted updated. And I thought this one would answer all my prayers, but it's still just a little bit off. So I'm going to eliminate both Dracula and Blackheart, but Titania can stick around. And here's the last Marvel Legend, Odin. And no, he doesn't have bat wings. I know it kind of looks like it right now, but that's because Nemesis Enforcer is behind him. But Odin, this is the father of Thor. And this is a cool figure. He is big. He is wide. You know, he has a very imposing stature, the way he should. Because Odin was often drawn to be just this big, towering figure in the comic books. And I think they've done him justice with this figure. He had multiple helmet options. This is the one that I like best, but there were some other pretty cool ones. It's a good figure. He's got a soft goods cape. When this figure came out, I saw a couple other toy reviewers mention that this was a shoe-in for their best of the year list. And I totally get why it would be. But for me, it's just Odin was always kind of like a background character in the Thor comic books. Like, he's not the star of the show. It would be like me putting Aunt May on my best of the year list or something. So Odin is cool, but he's just the dad of a character that I really like. So solid figure. Glad I got it. It was kind of expensive, but I was willing to pay for it because I wanted this figure in my collection. But it's just not a best of the year figure for me, and that's just based on who the character is. Now let's talk about Beastman. This is Beastman from Masters of the Universe, and it is based on the live-action movie. Now, when I was a kid, I was kind of thrown off by the live-action movie because the characters did not look how they looked in the cartoon. But over the years, and I didn't even hate the movie as a kid, but anyway, over the years, I've kind of come to appreciate it for what it is. And just in the last couple of years, we started getting some action figures of the characters from the movie, which has been pretty cool. We got He-Man, we got Skeletor, we got some of the other henchmen like Sauron and Blade. And Beastman was kind of this glaring hole in the collection. We didn't get one of these from Super 7 like we got with all the other ones. So anyway, I was happy to finally get a movie Beastman, although at least that's what I thought until I had him in hand. And then I thought, you know what, maybe I didn't need this. I think this outfit is really ugly. I hate these like leather chap things that come down over his knees. I think they look terrible. And then he's just, bare-legged in the back. I think he's kind of awkward shape. I don't really buy any of these Masters of the Universe. At least I don't buy many of them. The Masterverse line, which is their current line of like 7-inch figures, I mostly focus on the smaller line of Origins. So this guy's kind of an orphan in my collection. He doesn't really fit in with my classics and my other movie figures. He just kind of exists, and he just does not look very good. This is probably one of the only figures that I bought this year that I didn't have to buy it. I didn't need a Build-A-Figure part or anything. I just bought it to fill a hole in my collection, but I don't really like it. It's kind of I would say it's a bad figure. So he's gonna go. Okay, let's take a look at the last G.I. Joes we haven't talked about yet. I have eliminated quite a few G.I. Joes here today, but they're also doing quite well because the only characters that I've locked in so far are 4 G.I. Joes. So we've got Starduster, Raptor, Road Pig, and Glenda are all locked for the next round. That leaves us with Storm Shadow. We'll call this Storm Shadow version 2 in his heroic outfit. He's got the Wolverine claws. You can see his tattoo on his forearm. Pretty cool. And then this is technically the same figure that I have twice. This is the Iron Grenadier Bat, which is a pretty cool concept that we haven't seen before. It's taking the Cobra Battle Android Trooper and painting him in Destro's Iron Grenadier colors. And they gave us alternate heads, so I can display him 2 different ways. They gave us alternate chest pieces, so I can display one with a battle-damaged chest and one with a nice clean one. And they've got different hands. So this guy I can display with a claw. This other guy here, he's got a hand and a chainsaw. So that's pretty cool. But I guess I'll just get it out of the way and say we've already got the Bat several times in the G.I. Joe Classified line. This is a nice repaint, but it is just that. It's a repaint. So I have it, I think, in 4, maybe 5 other colors. And it's just starting to feel a little bit played out. I will continue to buy them. It's still a great figure, but it's definitely not really a contender for my best of the year anymore at this point. So I can get rid of those guys. And Storm Shadow, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of him too. This is a good figure, but I have some issues with the hood. I don't know why it sits so low. It doesn't seem true to the vintage figure. Like you can barely see his eyes. And it's not adjustable. You can't pull that hood back. He's also very busy. He's got all this belt. There's a lot going on there. The vintage figure didn't have all of that. It basically just had the rope on his torso, and then all this other stuff, the belt, the skirt piece, that's all extra. These swords on his waist. Like, it's not bad. I like this figure, but it loses some points in that it doesn't match the vintage figure that it's supposed to be kind of replicating. And we'll probably get another version of this in time that's closer to the vintage toy from my childhood. And he seems a little short to me. The problem with the hood. So yeah, it's a cool figure. Not a bad figure at all. But yeah, he's going to get eliminated. And then that leaves us with Nemesis Enforcer, who they now call Nemesis Immortal for some reason. But I'm going to continue to call him Nemesis Enforcer because that's what he was called when I was a kid. And I was really looking forward to this guy. This guy is from the like mythical subterranean army called Cobra La. They're made up of like weird snake people, and they have biological vehicles. It's a whole thing that I won't get into. You're probably familiar with it. I don't know. But anyway, some Joe fans, can't deal with it. It's just too weird and sci-fi, but I was still a little kid when this stuff came out, so I love it. Anyway, I was really looking forward to this guy, and I just think they dropped the ball a little bit. And the head is the main reason. The head sculpt looks weird, that digital paint job. The eyes just don't look right. The armor doesn't really do it for me. The shoulder pads are kind of weird, the way they just kind of float there. The swords on his legs, I find, kind of wiggle around. They take up too much space and make it awkward to pose him. The wings, in the cartoon, he had like legit like bat wings. These are more like they're wings on the end of extra arms. It's just, again, I don't dislike it. It's just not really true to the character, what I was expecting. I don't like his little feet. I think they look weird and stubby. So yeah, I wanted to love this figure. When I heard they were making Nemesis Enforcer this year, I thought just based on the character alone, it would have a shot at being my best figure of the whole year. But instead, I think I'm going to eliminate him just because he kind of missed the mark a little too much in too many places. Okay, we've made some pretty serious progress. We're getting close to an hour though, so I want to try and wrap this up. Now, technically, I could stop right now. I said at the beginning of this, I was hoping to get down to about 20 figures, and I'm already down to 18. But I think I could keep going. But yeah, there's still a few figures we haven't talked about yet. This here is Godzilla -1, the ultimate figure from Super 7. I think it's great. I already have, I think, at least one Godzilla Ultimate figures from previous quarters advancing to my best of the year. For example, in the third quarter, I got this translucent Godzilla. And so if I push this guy through, I'm going to have two Godzillas competing against one another. And I guess that's what I'm going to have to do because this guy is awesome. I love this figure. I love this sculpt. I love Godzilla. So yeah, this guy is a lock. Let's just say that. So Godzilla's a lock over there with those 4 G.I. Joes. This here is the Muto. If you're not familiar with him, this is the creature that Godzilla fought in the, what was it, 2014 Godzilla movie? The first legendary Godzilla movie. This is kind of a weird character. He was a new original character at the time. And I think maybe a lot of fans were kind of like, what is this thing? Why doesn't he fight one of the known monsters? But I think over the years, people have kind of grown to like the Muto and have been clamoring for action figures of the Muto. And it took this long before we finally got one. And he turned out pretty great. This is made by Hiya Toys. It's my first figure from Hiya Toys. It's got nice detail, nice articulation. And it's just a character that, you know, we've been waiting for a long time. So I think I'm going to go ahead and say the Muto is a lock. I'll put him over there with Godzilla. I mentioned Thulsa Doom earlier because I eliminated the reaction figure of him. I think this is a great figure. They previously released a figure very much like this, but they've added some paint detail. They gave him a cloth cape. They got rid of the big rubber kind of overcoat that the previous version had. So I think this one is superior than the previous release in every way. And I am glad that I waited and didn't buy that version 1 because this guy, I think, is awesome. He's got the soft goods cape that is wired so you can pose it. And yeah, so this guy's a villain from Conan the Barbarian. I love Conan. I've been on a real Conan kick this kind of past year. I've been reading the original novels by Robert E. Howard. I've been collecting some of the old Marvel comics that I never read as a kid. And anyway, and then the fact that we lost James Earl Jones this year just kind of makes this figure a little extra special too. So yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and say that Thulsa Doom is a lock. So we've got 4 Transformers over here, 2 that transform and 2 that don't. So maybe we should talk about them, but let me deal with these 2 figures that are kind of blocking them right now. So we've already talked about Titania. You know what? It's a good enough figure. I don't know if she'll make it to my best of the year list. I don't think she will because she's competing with so many other nice Marvel Legends, but it's good enough that she can advance from this quarter anyway. This figure here, I love it. This is a figure from a toy line called Operation Monster Force. It's made by Fresh Monkey Fiction. He is called the Sleepwalker. And as you can see, he's very kind of like Nazi inspired as far as his outfit goes. But he is based on... So even though he doesn't really have any official ties to G.I. Joe, in the UK, G.I. Joe fought an enemy called the Red Shadows. And this is based on the Red Shadows figures from the UK. So it is connected to G.I. Joe if you kind of know your stuff. And I was just really excited about this figure. And I think he looked awesome. You know, I pre-ordered it a long time ago. And when I finally got it in hand, I was like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted. I love it. I thought it would maybe be my toy of the year. It's that good. It came with so many extra parts, extra hands, extra heads, extra weapons. But then I handled it. And I don't know if it's just mine or if it's a major problem, but his arm, this arm just comes right out of the socket. Like, look, I'm doing this one hand. I'm barely putting any force on it. But anyway, will it do it? You can already see it. Yeah, it's coming out of, it just falls right out. So anytime I try and pose them, if I try and lift this arm at all, these little nubs just don't hold it in place enough. They just come right out of their joint. And it's really frustrating. So the other arm does not do that. So I think it must be just an issue with this arm. I don't know if anybody else is experiencing this with their figure. But that's a huge bummer because these figures are not cheap. You know, these guys, they look like G.I. Joe Classified, and I'm going to display it with my G.I. Joe Classified figure. But he is like twice as expensive as a G.I. Joe Classified figure. So the fact that his arm just comes off, that's a bummer. So I do not think he is going to be my toy of the year. I can pretty much guarantee you he's not. But he's still good enough to advance to the finals. So we're going to go ahead and say that he is a lock as well. And you know what? I'm just going to talk about these guys for a second. I think as a kid, I probably liked Big Bird better. But, oh, there we go. We had another fall. But looking at them objectively, I think the Count just has more going for him. I think he's a more interesting sculpt. He's got more variety in his paint. He's got that fun little vinyl cape. He's got the clear little monocle on his face. He's just a really fun figure. So I think if I was going to put one of these figures through, and I really can't see me putting 2 Sesame Street figures through to my final round. So I think I can get rid of Big Bird, and I'm going to let the Count advance. So I'll say he's a lock. I might as well say Lord Grasp is a lock. Jesus Christ, everybody's going down here now. All right, we'll say all these guys. They're all locks, except for these Transformers. So let's talk about the Transformers. Okay, so we've got 4 Transformers. We'll start over here. So this is Straxus. This is based off a character that appeared in the Marvel comic books back in the 80s, long before he ever got an action figure. I really loved those particular issues that he appeared in back then when I was a kid, and I always wanted a toy of him. I got a kind of lackluster one about 10 years ago, and finally we got a really cool, big, hulking version of Straxus. This is a solid figure. I'm very happy with him. But I think he's just maybe lacking in a couple spots. And it's not really the figure's fault. It's just the design of the character was a little bland. Like, he doesn't have a whole lot going on in his design. His face, I feel like he should have some light piping or something in his eyes because they just look really kind of dead in those like hollowed out black eyes. I think if you could get a light source to go through the top, that would look a lot better. And I also think he has way too much kibble on him, which is all this extra stuff that hangs off his arms and his back. So for that reason, I'm going to eliminate Straxus. Now these 2 figures here are the non-transforming Transformers because they are from Super 7's Ultimates Transformers line. I have a couple of these figures already. They are, I don't know, in some ways kind of underwhelming because for a figure that's labeled Ultimate, you expect it to be Ultimate. But the articulation is really limited. Like, I've got the Optimus Prime, like the original Optimus Prime in red and blue. And that actually did make my best of the year list like 2 years ago. But like, that's as much as his arm bends. Like his elbow, that's as much as, yeah, like it's pretty weak. Like, it's not particularly posable. This kind of crotch piece here is like rubber. I don't know if you can see that there, which has me worried that over time it will deteriorate and rip. Yeah, he just has very limited articulation all over. But I just thought it was so cool to have a Transformer this big and that looked so cartoon accurate that for those reasons, I pushed the Optimus Prime through. And I liked that toy enough that I bought this one. This is called Fallen Leader Optimus Prime, and essentially it's exactly what it looks like. It's a dead Optimus Prime action figure from the scene in the animated movie when Optimus Prime dies. So you can see his face is all cracked. All the color has faded out of him. His windshield's cracked. And yeah, this is actually a figure that you wouldn't have seen me talk about on my channel yet because I just got it the other day. His chest opens up and he's got the Matrix of Leadership tucked in there behind this other panel. It's a cool figure. I liked it the first time. I like it this time. But Optimus Prime is not going to be on my best of list again because this is essentially a repaint of a figure I already have. And even for a dead Optimus Prime, it kind of drives me nuts
how bent that one little antenna is on the one side of his head. I don't think it's supposed to be that bent. I think it kind of got warped in the plastic. I'm going to have to take a hairdryer to it and see if I can get it to stand up a little bit more. I don't mind that it's kind of bent because he's dead, but I hate that it's pressed so tightly to his head. I want it to stand out a little further. Anyway, cool figure, but not toy of the year. Soundwave, on the other hand, I think looks great. And I think he can advance for the same reason that the full color Optimus Prime advanced. This guy has got limited articulation. He's got multiple heads and multiple hands, which is cool. But I actually haven't swapped out any of his hands or his heads because I'm scared he will break. They feel kind of brittle. I really will have to be careful and heat them up before I change out any of his hands, which is not something I love to do with my action figures. His eject button on his shoulder doesn't work as well as you'd like it to. This is supposed to pop all the way open, but you can see how it doesn't really. So it's got its flaws, but it just looks so damn cool. It looks like it stepped right out of a cartoon cell, and you know, there's no kibble because it doesn't transform. It matches the animation model, and just the size of it, it looks great. So Soundwave is going to advance, and Bludgeon. This is the kind of samurai pretender transformer. It is a favorite character of mine. I already have this figure in the vintage toy colors, but this one here has been repainted in the comic book colors, and they've sculpted some new pieces, including this new head, which I think looks incredible. It's got the like lower jaw is ripped off. It's just got those exposed wires. I think this one is even better than the previous release. I love it. I love those triple treads on the shoulders. It just looks so menacing. So yeah. Now, the original Bludgeon, the previous version like this, did not make my best of the year list. However, that's because it was competing with another figure on this same mold of Tarn, and I thought Tarn looked a little bit better than the original Bludgeon, so Tarn made my best of the year list last year. But yeah, I think Bludgeon's got a much better chance of making it to the final list with this paint job and with this new head sculpt. So yeah, pretty cool figure. And these guys are going to advance. All right, so there you go. Those are my best action figures of the fourth quarter. I managed to whittle it down to 15 figures. To my surprise, 2 reaction figures have made it through to the end. So just to recap, I've got the Count from Sesame Street. I've got Derek Smalls from Spinal Tap. Then I've got Godzilla -1. I've got Road Pig and his dog Ruckus kind of hiding back there. Then I've got Raptor, Bludgeon, Glenda, the Sleepwalker from Operation Monster Force, Titania, Thulsa Doom, Starduster, Ultimate Soundwave, the Muto, and the Lord Grasp from Masters of the Universe Origins. So, a diverse little cast, and we'll see how these guys fare against the best figures from the previous 3 quarters, and we'll be doing that probably in about a week's time.
Okay, so that was my best action figures of the fourth quarter of 2024. So I shot my intro on my lunch break. I shot the video after work, and I've been editing it all evening, and now here it is at the end of the night. So I thought I would shoot my outro, and you can see my Christmas tree now all lit up. We have this Christmas tree star at the top that projects those snowflakes. And if we had a reasonable sized tree, those snowflakes would have lots of room to project up onto the ceiling, and we'd have a really nice projection. But because the star goes right up to the top of the ceiling, it's just got this little teeny spot to reflect. It's kind of ridiculous because this tree is huge. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please let me know what you think of my picks. Did you agree? Would you pick the same ones? Is there any that I shouldn't have eliminated? Please comment below. If you enjoyed the video, also make sure to like and subscribe. And yeah, be sure to tune in for the final best of 2024, which I'll be shooting, probably Well, it's the 18th now, so yeah, you can expect it in, 12, 13 days or so at the end of the month. So yeah, stay tuned for that. So yeah, I'll see you then. Thank you very much for watching. Ciao.